we just sat down to record, and Geeta's already started cyberbullying Dave, and I just think that's a great way to start the second last show of the season.
A lot of shots. Everybody come to the net. We just have to get more and more pucks to the net.
We used to talk about in Vancouver getting pucks on net and
pucks on net.
Well, that's the key. We got to get the puck on net.
What were you saying about putting pucks on net?
Continue to put pucks on net, and
it's just getting pucks on net.
Pucks on net and driving and making it a hard night on them.
Live on tape from Geeta's apartment, her palatial estate on the 23rd floor. Tried to sing along with that. I've been wanting to do that for a while. This is Pucks on Net, a Vancouver hockey podcast. Doesn't talk about fantasy or fancy stats. Got a three-man booth here. PMAC.
Happy 20th anniversary, Harry Potter.
Dave is noticeably absent.
He's been cyberbullied. If you don't know what we're talking about, just go to follow Geeta on Twitter. Second last show of the year, guys. How do we feel?
We've made it 4 seasons.
Thank Dumbledore.
I don't get that. Listen, just because I appreciate the Dave cyberbullying.
It's been magical, Ryan.
Like some sort of wand and jazz where they live in a hut or a
Don't
school
even try.
And
Don't even.
I don't know.
They get taught magic or something, and then they got to overcome adversity.
You should just stop. Dave will think you're cool.
Well, thank you for joining us. Wherever you guys from, make sure you follow us on Twitter at PucksOnNetCA or PucksNetCa. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And if you want to support the show,
by the way, that stupid crow was in the news today.
There is a lot of... I tweeted about it from Pucks on Net, but there's a lot of bad publicity for crows as of late. There's a crow in East Van, elegantly named Canuck, that is terrorizing people.
Is that the one that stole the knife from the crime scene?
Yeah.
Yes, which is just hilarious in its own.
He's gotten a little too confident.
Is that the one that on our logo is based on?
I know.
No, the logo's based on Mark Crawford.
They look very similar.
That's true.
So if you're not a crow, if you are a crow or a crow with a couple of bucks to throw our way, and you want to support the show monetarily, you can head on over to patreon.com/pucksonnet. And we have 2 donors to thank this week.
Oh.
We thanked him. PMAC and I recorded our hockey vinyl episode last night at the old Pucks on Net studios, and we thanked him, but we'll thank him again. Stuart McLean, same old Stuart. He's a longtime listener. He pledged $5, which we thank you very much.
Aye, lad, that's great.
And Sean Holmes Smith, he also pledged $5. I don't think he's Scottish, though.
That's fine. He's great, too.
And so if you want to, again, we always appreciate any money headed on to Patreon. And PMAC and I and some friends of the show, we recorded... I thought I had a lot of fun recording it. We did. Our friend Adam has a lot of hockey vinyl. He played it for us, and he brought a Guy Lafleur disco record that stole the show, and it was half instructional, half sexy disco music.
It's instructions on how to take snapshots and stuff. Not Snapchats, but set to disco music,
and it's amazing. Okay. So it's a show stealer, and this is another hype. I don't want to hammer Patreon too much at the start of the show, but PMAC and I are telling a story on 5 Minutes for Paying, and it's a good one.
A doozy.
It's a doozy. And all I'll say is I tell the worst internet date I've ever been on. It wasn't recent, but that's just the first peel of the onion.
Thanks
there.
for the teaser.
Good teaser. So the NHL entry draft just happened, PMAC. And you brought
they did a real shitty job of hyping that.
What do you mean?
Well, I think it was halfway through the first round before I even realized what was going on. I can figure out based on your texts and Twitter, because usually I've become accustomed to the NHL draft occurring in the first weekend of July on a Saturday morning.
It's not destination television in June, is what you're saying? It's not summer programming?
No, it's been
a Friday night must-see.
It's been the last weekend in June, and in the past they would do Saturday morning. Like, I've still got a VHS tape of the 1999 draft somewhere, and I know you've got some others around that time.
I got a bunch.
I think you have the same tape. It's under my bed right now.
But for the last, 5-6 years at least, they've been doing... round one on a Friday night.
It's been a few years, and maybe we just back when you paid that much more intent when you had your bingo card of which players that I've been following and are going to go to the Atlanta Thrashers. But it was odd.
I'm years removed from that.
But they had their weird this year. They brought out that weird NBA green room because they did at the NBA draft and players just sat back there, and it was a very unusual event, and that capped off a week of awkward television that the NHL had produced.
Well, there was a lot of stuff in 1 week, and people were talking about, like, can't you space out the news cycles a little bit more because everything kind of got lost on top of, like, the awards happened at the same time as the expansion draft.
They don't do a good job of hyping the awards either. I don't know when it's on. There's never a second showing of it. I don't know what channel to look for.
Although I never watched the awards, and I did watch them this year because I wanted to see the expansion draft stuff. So maybe that was the right way to do that now that I think about it, because I normally watch the highlights, or I'll watch parts of the awards, but
I feel like they only show it like at 5 o'clock, and so by the time I get home from work, it's not on TV any longer.
Yeah.
And it's not something I would know to even PVR.
It was on. It went long, and I know that like they didn't give out the Hart Trophy until like after like almost 20 after 10 Eastern time.
Okay.
Like it was late, but it was later. Did they do Hart Trophy and then the final?
Late?
The Hart Trophy is the last thing they hand out.
Yeah, and it was after they announced that Fleury had gone to.
I guess it was.
It was after 7 on the West Coast here.
I guess that's true.
But you make a good point about they don't space this stuff out because they announced that Fleury was going to Vegas, and there was all this heartfelt, huge fan reaction, and then like everybody kind of stopped watching, and then they go, well, we still have the Hart Trophy to give out, and Connor McDavid won it in his first healthy season as an Oiler.
Now, I don't know what listeners think. Tweet me and let me know, because I honestly don't know. Maybe you guys can comment. All the stupid skits that they do, would you rather they just cut? Because that's why the award ceremony goes so long, or one of the reasons. They've got these like 4 or 5 minute skits with horrible writing, and it doesn't matter who's in them, but, you know, they're not funny.
They used to have...
Why waste the time?
CBC used to have little quirky ones that I used to enjoy as a kid, and maybe...
But it's like...
I hadn't evolved yet.
You know what it is?
What?
Now, I don't like drawing comparisons to wrestling, but anytime they have legitimate exposure or legitimate celebrities that like the product, they squeeze every drop out of them and like of exposure.
So it's oversaturation.
So we see Will Arnett for an hour straight every year. We see... I think isn't Jason Priestley a big fan? But like you see those
when Will Arnett did it, I feel like that was like, okay, I can watch this, but it's like not good Will Arnett. But at least like that was like the low bar for what I'd say. Okay, you know what? This is fine. But this year it was like I don't know who the host was. I still don't know. I didn't look him up, but he kept acting like he was a big shot. So I'm like, should I know who this is?
Who was it?
I don't know.
All right, you know what, Geeta, you look it up because because I was watching it at work and I had it on mute, right? And I'm like, who is this guy? Like, is that like he's got a familiar look to him, and he seemed like he was a big deal, and he was on camera a lot. But I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
And they did another Penn and Teller skit, and they're never good.
Oh,
like
no,
I don't mind
they're
Penn and
not
Teller,
funny.
but like
one of them lost a lot of weight. I think that's the fat guy.
It's the big one, the one with the long hair.
If the skinny one lost a lot of weight, that'd just be sad.
Anyway, yeah, they should like I don't know. And it does remind me when CBC used to do it, it was like Air Farce skits. Air Farce is one of those shows that I liked when I was like 10, 11, 12, and I was sort of into politics at that age, and I thought it was funny, but as an adult, I don't know if it's just the cast, but like I don't like a lot of that. And 22 Minutes was good until Rick Mercer left, but like a lot of those shows are borderline, you know, funny.
You're just
to
like
begin with.
It's not the best TV. I would love it if it was 20 minutes and they just award, fired it out.
Well, they could stretch it out, but have more like stuff that's actually pertaining to hockey. Like, don't try to be funny.
That kid, Saad.
That was the best joke of the night, actually.
Let's find out this.
Sorry, the host was Joe Manganiello.
Okay.
He's married to Sofia Vergara. He's a big guy, mustache.
That's why they kept cutting to Sofia Vergara.
Blood. Yeah.
I was like, I guess she's a
Magic
big hockey fan.
Mike. He's that guy. Like,
that's right. He said he was in Magic Mike, and he made a joke about like Brent Burns being in the next one or something.
I didn't know is he Canadian?
They just appeared naked in the body issue from ESPN, so he knew something we didn't know.
Maybe. Was it Brent? I don't even know if it was Brent. He said somebody should be in the next one or something. I don't know.
That was a great picture.
It was.
No, it was a goalie because he talked about someone being good around poles or something.
Oh, that's graphic.
It's Joe Thornton.
It's a little like that the Guy Lafleur record. A little graphic.
You gotta snap it and shoot it or whatever. The greatest thing that happened from the night as we lean towards Canucks is that a 10-year-old sassed the Canucks and he spoke from the heart and he spoke from all our hearts because he said exactly how we all feel.
Well, no, because then he said that they made him say that.
But yeah, because he's like, I'm still a Canucks fan. I like him, but he's right. Did you hear what he said?
Ooh.
It was that little, I don't know, he was there last year.
I feel like I should know his name now. He's that kid that's in, like, did he win an Academy Award or he's up for an Academy Award?
Is it that cute little kid from Room?
Yes.
Oh.
So he goes,
what's his name?
Jacob Tremblay.
Yeah, Jacob Tremblay.
What award? He's given that award. Craig Anderson won it, and it's the Perseverance Award. It's got an official name. I don't know the player it's named after.
Oh, Bill?
Bill Masterson? I think it's the Bill Masterson, yeah. And pardon?
Masterton?
Sorry.
Is it Masterson?
Masterton.
The Bill Masterson. Must have been a mic glitch there.
We should do homework and take notes or something.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hey, it's June or July.
Housekeeping from 2 weeks ago. We didn't know who was nominated for the Selkie, and we apologize. He comes out and he's like...
Mike Pekka?
Pekka and Datsu.
But this kid comes out and he's like, oh, it's been played a lot, but it's like... Oh, I'm here to nominate for the Bill Masterson Award. Masterton.
Masterton Memorial Trophy.
Or
not.
For Perseverance. And he goes, and I'm a Canucks fan. I know a thing or two about Perseverance.
And then they cut to Sidney Crosby, who was doubled over laughing, and Commissioner Gary's Bettman had his eyes closed, like just laughing his head off.
And the other thing was...
That's what pissed a lot of people off.
And then what I love is... PMAC has told a off-the-record tale about Mike Babcock from that game, and when they cut to him and he was laughing hysterically,
right.
It just made me realize that maybe they're a bit of a laughing stock on the team.
Well,
a little bit.
That secret story, it wasn't really about the Canucks. My story.
He doesn't work here anymore.
Off the record. Yeah, it's about somebody.
But he doesn't work here anymore. So the Vancouver Canucks, PMAC...
off the record.
Yeah, off the record. Not even on 5 minutes or
Damn it, yeah.
It's a good story, though. If you see PMAC on the street, maybe he'll tell you.
On the street, I'll tell you.
Okay.
You brought up a very good point where you said that the ghosts of Virtanen are looming around the draft, and I thought that was very well put.
I think somebody else brought this up on Twitter or on the radio or something, but like when it comes to the decision of drafting Pettersson, granted, I didn't know a ton about a lot of prospects going into this, but I had watched some footage, and I knew Pettersson because he had played with Dahlen. I still want to call him Dahlen, but...
Is it Dahlen?
Yeah, I've been told it's Jonathan Dahlen is more correct pronunciation.
That's Darling.
There you go.
Now I got to before we go. I was printing up the old rundown, and I didn't know if they played in the Swedish Elite League or if there were tiers.
Swedish Tier 2, so it's like the Swedish Junior.
Okay.
So it's probably on par with like the BCHL, but maybe probably between the BCHL and WHL.
Wait. We're hiring pipsqueak Swedes out of the Swedish equivalent of the BCHL.
Well, it's their top tier junior league.
High level.
So it's as high as you can play as a junior there. It's probably between
because the elite league is like a men's league.
Yeah, like that's the Sirius Moto and all that.
Some of the guys that got drafted have been playing, and the Sedins played from like 16 in it's not the Swedish Elite League anymore, but the SHL. But anyway, so yeah, take it for what it's worth. Yes, he hasn't been playing against the top tier, so there's that. But he's got skill. A lot of people said he's right up there with the top two guys skill-wise, but physically... Yeah, he hasn't filled out.
Yeah, he's
not as big a guy.
There was a good. I mean, take it for what you what?
Nothing.
Oh, I thought you were going to chime in with some sort of. Anyway,
he needs 20 more pounds. Some pies will do that.
I was going to hang out with Jake. No, but going back to the point about Jake. Calm down, Ryan. Back to the point about Jake is you get the point in the next pick. You could take Cody Glass.
Yeah,
but the ghost of Jake Virtanen might be haunting where there were better players skill-wise available. You talk about Nylander, you talk about Ehlers that came after Virtanen, and you go, okay, do we go skill? Do we go size?
Yeah.
Western boy? No, we're going to go skill. We're going to go skill this time. And there's still rumors that the Canucks are going to slash and burn their entire scouting staff now So Benning might just be like going against everything they've been saying for the last 15 years when this crew's been running the show.
Okay.
Geeta, there was probably the worst thing that came out with Jimbo was he's like, we gave up on some skill to draft Jake Virtanen. We really,
I'd be hurt if someone said that about me.
It's
Why
like,
did he say that? I missed that.
It was on the
One
radio.
of the draft day?
No, it was a while ago, but it was just one of those things that made everybody doubt. Like, why would you pick him? Okay,
yeah,
but why would you say that? It was one of his gaffes, but like there was something I could look for it, but there was something along that line. Say we gave up, we passed up on some skill to get Virtanen. But they didn't do that this year.
He's like perpetually got his foot in his mouth, doesn't he?
He kind of does.
Yeah.
He's just a simple boy that likes hockey and just wants to talk about hockey.
But apparently, Pettersson, I'm second guessing. It's the summertime, folks.
Yeah.
Apparently he has
double T.
He has some North American heart because Benning picked him and he wouldn't have done it if he didn't have North American heart.
Well, now we know that his transplant.
Does Swedes have the most North American heart?
I don't know. I think so because they have a lot. I mean, if we go in history of like they have those resilient like Red Wings like Franzen and Cronwall was.
You're just buying into Benning's
but like
rhetoric
that's
right
where
now.
that's where that BS mindset comes from. Guys like Peter Forsberg or all those like that's what they base it on. Like because that
Nick Lidstrom,
Yeah.
Zetterberg's a tough guy. Matthias Olin, jeez.
Oh, he was so good.
Don't piss him off.
I remember we were at the sports bar one night, just looking at his hockey DB, going, "Man, he was very good. He was very
Till he
consistent."
lost an eye?
He was an intimidating figure too. Like some guys are tall, but they're not too thick. Like the Sedins are big guys, but they're not. Olin is like twice as wide as the Sedin. Like he was one of the first Canucks I ever got to interview, and I remember being like shocked being face to face with the guy at his stature.
Well, that's like. It's hard to like. I don't know. Like if you don't see these players like up close, and you don't you don't realize like when that whole like the skill argument comes in, and then you see like, holy crap, this guy is two of me. Like he is huge. He's a mountain of a man.
Right.
It's typically one of two things. I'll either be shocked at how small. Like they're tough. I wouldn't fight the guy, but like it's muscle. They're not thick guys because they have no body fat. And some of them you stand next to, and I'm like twice as big as the guy. And you don't see that from above, the angles that they typically show on TV. But then you get next to the big guys, and the big guys are big.
They are big hockey players, and it's like I know like Ryan Miller. You always say how tiny he is, and then
well, he's not. He's tall, but he's wiry.
Yeah, he's
right.
He doesn't need to have that weight on him to play that game, and it's just impressive to see all either end of the gigantic and or wiry spectrum.
All right, let's talk about the opposite end of a spectrum. The Canucks drafted a little guy.
Yes, they drafted a couple short players, and a lot of short players were going in the draft because you can see that this is that whole skilled hockey players are good at hockey phenomenon is seeping into all the clubs.
Okay.
But the Oilers drafted the highest drafted shortest player in NHL history, and that's a little oxymoronic.
Yeah.
But it was Kailer Yamamoto. He's an American, and he played for the Spokane Chiefs, and the Oilers picked him 22nd overall.
Okay. How tall is he?
Oh Jesus, Geeta,
That's the important stat.
Was he 5'6", 5'7"?
Well, the Canucks drafted a 5'6".
Okay, because listen, this is hockey height. They say he's 5'8", but I mean,
then you knock a couple
he's probably
of
five.
points off.
I think he's 5'6".
Yeah,
this is
the first time I feel like in the draft that I'm able to see eye to eye with players.
Do you think you could fight him?
I would tower over these guys in a good pair of heels.
And cyberbully the shit out of them.
That's a real thing, okay?
I actually don't remember his name, but he's tiny, P-Mac.
Who?
The pipsqueak that Canucks drafted in the third round.
Yeah, Finnish player out of the OHL, and it's double P's. I'm totally forgetting, though.
Papool or something like that.
How is this not on your notes list that you give us?
Because he was drafted in like the 90th round.
He was drafted on the Sunday.
Petrus Palmu, and he went like in the
Probably
expansion draft. The Canucks also drafted Cole Lind, who was a clone of Rocket. He was a smaller guy, but I really liked him. And from all the dub hockey I've watched, I've quite enjoyed that they got him. And they drafted a goalie in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Mike DiPietro. We do not know the bloodline yet.
So not Rick's son?
He could be. Geeta and I had a great idea on the weekend. We think that Rick DiPietro should have... and
Menon Rayom should have bred like a breed of super goalies with great hair.
Yeah, they would have just... Well, they also would have been injury prone, but.
Well, I'm just surprised the Canucks didn't move Thatcher Demko before picking a DiPietro in the draft. Because isn't that like if you've got a stellar, top-ranked guy, Roberto Luongo, zip right out of New York.
Jersey didn't have room.
Well, the island. But, they moved him out for nothing to the Panthers.
That's what they're going to do with Thatcher Demko.
So Demko, I'm surprised he didn't find his way out of town. And
he's going to end up somewhere that has nothing to give up. Dallas.
But, DiPietro was only the 3rd goalie taken in the draft. So the Canucks did get one of the guys, and a bunch of goalies went right after him. So they kind of snuck in there before everybody started taking a goalie.
When that happened, it kind of reminded me of like when you do a fantasy draft.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, somebody's drafting goalies. Oh, we all got to start drafting goalies because you realize that like they're all gonna go. And I kind of got that vibe. It's like goalie. Oh shit, goalie.
But it is interesting to see goalies used to go. I mean, first overall. When we're talking about some of these guys, DiPietro.
That was a trend, like early 2000s, though.
People used to, but now it's been discovered that goalies are kind of like defensemen. They take a while to develop. You don't always know who's going to be the best. There's a lot of development involved in just training them how to think, since it's such a positional. It definitely takes skill. Certain guys are going to be better than others, but you can sort of train.
That was just a bad trend set by the Islanders
and the Pens, but theirs worked out better.
Yeah, Fleury won a lot of Stanley Cups. The Montoyas of the world.
Not as great.
I'll tell you what is great. The selection that Image Optometry has at all their region or all their locations in the region, BMAC. And I would just like to say that with all the options out there,
you could see through the ghost of Jake Virtanen.
If they had glasses a few years ago, they might have been able to see through that plan. With all the options out there, why is it that so many people, including local sports pros, trust their eyes to Image Optometry? Any idea, PMAC?
So I was reading through the notes. What did you say?
Well, it could be the online prices with bricks and mortar service. It could be the direct billing, which I don't have any benefits right now, so direct billing is just going to be regular old billing to me. It could be Geeta. What is that? Geeta just brought on her phone while we're doing the read a photo of a puppy on Instagram.
It's like this Labrador. He's adorable.
It could be that they're the only ones to offer a doctor's eye exam and a complete select pair of glasses for just $89.95. That's McGillney.
We've done that one to death.
It's McGillney.
More is off.
An unbeatable deal that ensures that you catch your next match in glorious HD. I mean, what else would you expect from the most affordable eye chain in BC? Image Optometry, the official eye doctors of the Canucks, PMAC, and Pucks on Net. Online at image.ca or image.ca.
Woo!
Imagine more for less. Hope they stick around.
Don't leave us.
So the Canucks have been rather praised. Like, they were applauded. People are saying they had a good, strong draft.
That's only because they've been shitty for so long.
It's
almost like here's a gold star for your nice effort.
Come on, Elias Pettersson's got more than a gold star. Come on.
It's a participation ribbon. It's a child's soccer game.
In other news, the Pittsburgh Penguins are bringing back the Goon. They're bringing back the role of the enforcer because they traded the 30th overall pick in the draft for arguably the toughest player in the NHL, Ryan Reaves from St. Louis. Mm-hmm. And if you remember PMAC, Jimmy Rutherford was saying that because he's so tired of the liberties that our people are taking on Sid and Gino,
right,
that he says maybe I'll have to waste a roster spot and get some toughness back in the lineup to protect them. And a lot of people are saying that this is a horrible deal. And I'm just wondering where you're taking.
What did he give up? Oh, the 30th pick.
A first-round pick.
But in a weakish draft?
Yeah.
What was the full deal?
Sorry.
I was just to say there was more to that deal than just like a first-round pick for Reaves.
There was another prospect and I believe a goalie prospect. And
well, that doesn't help in judging the deal. There were so many deals, I don't remember exactly what it was. So
I'm asking what you think of giving up a late first round pick for a fighter
Here's the thing.
in a league.
But I'm saying it wasn't just that. We need to see the rest of the deal.
They've won so many Stanley Cups in the last little while that I don't think it makes a big difference. This isn't a
Thank
mistake.
you, Geeta. And you need to protect your kids and your stars.
Sure.
Sorry I didn't give the answer you were looking for.
Whether he's there next May or not doesn't matter. Like, maybe he will make an impact this season.
And maybe he'll protect Sydney, who won't be as injured going through the rest of the
Sydney
playoffs.
can play in May and June.
He kind of was. His hands were frozen, but for the most part. I scoff at you asking for the whole deal because I don't think you have any hot take on the prospects included in the deal.
Oh, man. Wasn't that a horrible deal for the Oilers when they Martin Jelena for Wayne Gretzky straight up? Wasn't that? Oh, my goodness. That was terrible.
Jelena was a very serviceable player in Vancouver and maybe in Carolina.
Definitely worth Gretzky. Sorry, Ryan.
Let's
I'm just saying, don't roll your eyes at me when I...
Let's just move on to another random topic, like
the Dead Dads
Travis
Club?
Hamonic. Yeah, Paul, you can have this one.
What do you want from me?
Emotion.
No, let's not go to that. I want to go to a couple questions from Twitter first.
Okay.
Based on the expansion, Yerky21 asks, here's my question for you. How long do you think it is before we have an NHLer with an honest-to-goodness southern drawl?
They moved out of Atlanta.
Come on, North Carolina? Part of Florida? Northern Florida is still redneck country?
They don't have accents like that.
Do you kind of wish Austin Matthews had that accent?
Yeah, I wish he was a bit of a peach.
Well, he's a fine-dressed man at the award ceremony.
He won the Calder, and we're not even
and
talking about it.
And he brought Rhonda with him.
Did he?
Yeah, he brought his mom.
I feel bad for his mom because we don't know or care what her name is. She'll always be Rhonda to us.
For all we know, that's who his mother is.
They cut to her, and it wasn't Rhonda from...
Hey, listen.
What is it, North Haverbrook?
I think the camera was out of focus. You know, for all we know, that's Rhonda.
You squint real hard.
Sorry, Ibidoptometry's got me covered, so I saw it all too well.
The Hall of Fame class was announced this year.
Yeah.
Or today. And I'm kind of getting
the original Sedin brothers got it.
Korea and Solani.
Yes.
Jeez. This is kind of one of those years where it's kind of like a might as well year. It was kind of like
who else was eligible?
There weren't a lot of snubs this year because one of the questions Nathan asked was, "Do you think there was any snubs?" And I'm like, not really. Like, Anderchuk is a guy that it's like, maybe next year.
And then he got in this year.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Eric Lindros went in a couple of years ago. We're like, well, let's just throw those guys in. Like, it's so somebody. I don't think any of these are first-time Hall of Famers. Actually, no, is Solani?
Solani was the only lock to... Yeah, Solani was the only lock to make it in this year. So on those years, you typically do see some guys that are
Is Paul
overdue.
Correa a Hall of Famer?
No.
He's one of those guys kind of like Pavel Bure, I feel like, that injury has restricted us from seeing what he could have been. I'm not saying he was at Pavel Bure's level, but he wasn't far off.
But he played a long time.
Yeah, but he had a lot of injury issues, including some concussion issues, which is also comparable to Eric Lindros. So, I mean, it's one of those questions like Hall of Fame, I don't mind. Retiring numbers, I'm still not sold on Bure 100%. But that being said, I'm not really 100% sold on anyone except maybe Trevor Linden. But even that, I'm sure, is because that's the guy that was the guy when I was a kid. So, I mean,
out of all the players that are going in, Anderchuk, Timo Solani, Paul Correa, Dr. Mark Recchi, Danielle Goyette, who is a Canadian hockey player, and then they're also putting the Bruins owner Jeremy Jacobs in, who I've recently learned today was somebody that was all for NHL lockouts the last 20 years. So he's in there as a builder, and then a college coach, Claire Drake, is in.
Well, lockouts lockouts are a big part of the NHL's history.
And if you're a builder, you are responsible. So he's got to go in.
Yeah.
We love our lockouts in this sport. It's kind of a dull year. I'm not negative on Paul Kariya, but it's just, yeah.
The Hall of Fame ceremony is now one of those meh events too.
I think so. Yeah. It's
kind of anticlimactic. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Everybody's so accessible now. You've already heard Eric
Everybody's
Lindros.
in.
Everybody does kind of. This isn't everybody gets in kind of year.
It would almost be better. It's like, no, we just won't induct anyone this year because there's no one worthy of it.
Yeah, but this isn't Major League Baseball, and
right.
nobody's been tested positive for steroids. B-Mac, what are you looking up over there?
I wanted to see the rest of the Ryan Reaves trade because it was bugging me.
Here we have the most combative segment of the year.
Well, I don't want there to be any bad blood between us.
There's
I want
no
to finish
bad
the
blood.
point.
But
they dropped down 20 spots. They went to the 51st pick from the 31st, and Oscar Sundqvist. But
all those names mean a lot to me.
To move 20 picks down in this draft, I don't feel like was probably as major as it could have been another, because a lot of people were kind of like Wild West once you got past 16 or 20 or something.
Can the Penguins get away with that?
Oh yeah, well
do they get a pass? We're bringing in a tough guy.
Right now, the Penguins are in that do everything you can to keep the team at the top, because as soon as this gravy train runs, they're going to be out of luck. Again. Although they've got some good young guys, so they could turn into long-term Red Wings. You never know. That's the hope. But if those guys don't turn out to be
cyclical.
Oh yeah, it'll be cyclical.
Yeah.
They'll eventually go downhill. It's a matter of how far up these youngsters can step as Crosby starts to decrease in effectiveness. So I don't mind that deal.
Another deal happened. We've joked for a while that the Earth will stop spinning when Matt Duchene gets traded, because he's always getting traded. He never does. There was a deal with the Islanders and then it fell apart. And then the other deal, the thing that will never happen, and if it does, the Earth stops spinning, is Arizona being relocated. Well, the other thing was Travis Hamonic was on the trade block.
Arizona moved?
They'll never move.
They could move.
They're going to be playing in an abandoned Target parking lot in Tempe.
I think it's going to be one of those things kind of like Atlanta moving was very sudden. Do you remember that? The season ended and it was before the NHL Awards. They had already announced okay, they're going to Winnipeg, and we were all kind of in shock.
Because they didn't even have a jersey ready for the draft.
Nope.
You only knew they were called the Jets at the draft. It happened lickety split. I remember there was an outdoor game, the Calgary Montreal outdoor game, and Don Cherry's I tell you, you're gonna have a team in Winnipeg in no time. And sure enough, 3 months later,
I could see the Coyotes in Seattle, not this coming season, but the year after. How much money can they keep losing and Bettman keep?
That's the thing. They're not moving to Canada, not with the state of the dollar.
Seattle's not in Canada, though.
No, and that's it. They're not coming to Quebec because of the dollar.
Oh, yeah. Well, they've got the stadium. Something's coming to Quebec eventually.
Yeah.
There was news. The Quebec Ramparts are the only tenants in the Videotron Megadome.
What a great name.
Well, it's just Videotron Center. I added Megadome. I figured a little pizzazz.
Technodrome.
Yeah. Wait, that was
Sounds like there's lasers
that's
everywhere.
from Ninja Turtles.
That's from Ninja Turtles.
I remember I got a Technodrome for Christmas one year.
Big ball that rolled around under the Earth's crust.
Or in this case, big ball that would roll around on the linoleum in the kitchen and scuff everything up. But the Rampart is the only thing in the Videotron Megadome which holds 21,000 people. Quebec City was we're going to build our own Bell Center, screw you guys. And it holds, And they have an average of 13,500 people a game for a QMJHL game team, which is more than the Coyotes, the Panthers, and the Carolina Hurricanes. So they could move one there.
Combined.
1,600 people here for the Carolina Hurricanes game today. But no, the Coyotes don't have a president. They don't have a captain. They don't have a potential building.
Why aren't you applying for any of these vacancies?
I don't think they've been posted yet.
Oh.
What would you do if you were...
I'll be the captain. I'm applying for that. It's an open application process. I don't have to be a player.
No,
I'm going to be behind the bench, and they'll put a C on my suit.
Oh, so very Charlie Conway of you.
Go get him, guys.
Coach always said I would be better as a coach than a player. We've talked about it, but that bothered me because Conway was not the worst player on that team.
No.
Fourth liner Jimmy No Name should be bringing himself out of the lineup. You don't pull out your top line, one of your top line guys, to make space for another top line guy.
It's just bad coaching. Bombay's a real Dave Tippett, and just like Bombay getting, that's what
Bombay wasn't even there.
Where was he?
He was so absentee for a while.
Wasn't he? He was. This is a whole Patreon episode, if I remember correctly. But there are problems in Tampa Bay because they don't have a head coach. Because they told Dave Tippett, we don't want you anymore. Arizona. And like you watch The Office, right?
Yeah, I've watched both Offices.
There's a great part of The Office where Michael and Jim are both the bosses. They're co-manager. Jim handles the day-to-day stuff, and Michael's more of the big picture things, which is exactly what they did with
Tippett and Chaika.
Yeah, Chayak is a big picture kind of guy, and Dave Tippett handles the day-to-day things. And it was like, if you've been in an office where things are not, there isn't a proper level of authority.
It sounded like Tippett was the GM, but they didn't give him the title of GM, and Chaika was the assistant. They didn't like that after a while, and it was an internal struggle. Because nothing's really set in that team. They probably don't even have an owner. Gary Bettman's got some guy in like marionette strings. It's like Weekend at Bernie's.
Would it be great if it's like there's a Coyotes home game and it's just like somebody from the NHL comes rushing up to open up the doors like, it's coming, everybody come in, just let us turn the lights on and clean the ice. There's a hockey game today, we swear, because nobody works there. But he, there was, they didn't think that Chayaka could talk to the old GM.
Okay.
Because he was such a young...
Yeah.
I don't know, but now he tells Dave Tippett that he's not part of that anymore, and he basically brought Shane Doan in. It's like, we're not re-signing you, and even though we need to go to the cap floor and we think you're not welcome anymore. So he's kind of got a no. He doesn't. I don't know. He doesn't get too emotionally attached.
They're going full numbers, and I mean, as many hockey fans, there is this pool that's all about fancy stats, and I think it should be taken more seriously with most teams than it is, but it's where do you draw that line when things happen like Shane Doan?
Yeah.
Like, where do you draw that line? If you got a guy like that and he doesn't want to go and he's been such a good foot soldier, does it really hurt to try and figure out a cheap deal and put him on your fourth line, kind of like Trevor Linden did at the end with the Canucks? Is it going to hurt the overall picture? Or does it hurt more maybe letting him go and then other players go, well, he did that and he stayed here when the team was terrible and he should have gone somewhere better?
Is Shane Doan that much of a problem in your room? No, he's probably more good than he is bad, and he's probably a lot good.
And he's still been a relatively effective player, and if you restrict his minutes, he should be even more so. Like, that's one of those where at that point with a player... And it'll be interesting to see what the Canucks do with the Sedins, because there's your comparable local story next summer. Yeah. There's two of them, but yeah, like you kind of have to ask them, and maybe you set a bar. You say, we can only pay you this much, and that's you can sort of hardball them there, and then but let them leave of their own volition. But it seemed kind of like
is Shane Doan
purely
done?
Numbers there.
Yeah. Is he done? Like
I think that somebody would pick him up, and somebody would pay him that. And if he showed up to camp in great shape, which he's still in good shape, and he's still, I think somebody would take a chance on him for a basic league minimum, $900,000.
He hasn't played for a winner in a long time.
They went to the West Final once. Yeah. That's about it.
Well, tied in with that, I don't know if this is exactly what could happen, but could you see like Jerome McGinley going back to the Calgary Flames? People have talked about. Would you bring in like a Ginla and Doan to play on your fourth line on the Calgary Flames right now?
What is Calgary trying to achieve?
They're going for it.
Then
they
sure?
traded. Yeah, I mean that's a great point because he's.
It's also one of those moves that just blows up in Calgary's face type of.
Probably they are the Flames, but this is, they just did a move that is going to blow up on that could blow up on their face because they traded for Travis Hamonic, Paul and Dave's favorite hockey player, due to the century for his work at the Dead Dads Club. Honorary treasurer, I believe, is his official term.
No, he's like the president.
Yeah.
He's driving the bus, Ryan.
I was joking.
He was going to invite me and Dave out to a game if he came to Vancouver. Sorry, was that your...
No, for those that are newer to the show, if you don't know about Travis Hamonic, he lost his dad at a young age, and he knows how important a positive,
role model.
a male positive male role model is in a boy's life or daughter's or whatever it is. But he
invited people missing one of mother or father or both parents.
I stand corrected. I shouldn't say it's a father, but it's if you lose a parent, and he knows the impact, and he takes him to the game on his own dime. He gives them a tour of the room, and he spends time with them, and he connects with them. He gives them his email address, and it's one of the better hockey stories you'll hear. And he's in the same club as Paul and Dave, and they were always hoping that he'd be traded to Vancouver because he wanted to go to the West Coast because he's such a good guy. There was a family, an illness or whatever. There was a family thing, and he wanted to live and play in Western Canada so he could be close at a moment's notice. So he's just like the nicest guy
I'm really happy
ever.
for him that it worked out. It's going to hurt the Canucks probably because I think he's a solid guy. But, can't say enough good things about Travis Hamonic.
So the joke was Dave and Paul would want to be the first two kids that would be invited to the Canucks game to hang out with Travis Hamonic because they like him so much.
In all honesty, if he did stuff like that, I would totally volunteer if there was anything I could help him with in local efforts and stuff, and I'm sure Dave would too. Because I don't remember how old Dave was, but I was still a teenager when I lost my dad, and I know what it can mean to younger siblings and stuff. So great work.
But anyway, so beautiful Travis Hamonic aside. So he's in Calgary now, and Brian Burke. Did he trade for Phil Kessel? Or was that Dave Nonis? No, that was Dave Nonis.
That's going back a ways. Yeah, it might have still been. Well,
no, Burke was never.
Was Nonis his assistant?
Was Burke?
Burke was 2008. The fall of 2008
in Toronto.
Yeah.
So he kind of made if it's not Brian Burke, I apologize, but this is coming off the cuff right now. But he kind of made the same deal with Phil Kessel, where we got to have Phil Kessel. We'll give you 2 first-round picks and some other stuff, and we just want this guy right now. He's for our team right now. And Brian Burke did that. He gave him the first round and a second round next year. Actually, there's a fair bit. Yeah, their first and their second round next year, which PMAC
Burke isn't making trades though; it's Treliving.
Yeah, but come on, look how angry he looks. You got to think that he's the marionette.
No, I think Burke's kind of out of it these days. I mean,
he's
not completely, but I mean, I get the feeling he's not as hands-on as some people think he might be.
I hope so, because I'm really starting to lose a lot of everything with Burke.
Just because of that exchange at that dinner or whatever?
Hold your liquor.
With Burke?
Well, we went to the keg, and he made a scene, and he said, I wanted the double-baked potato, or twice-baked, and it was a regular one. He hit the fixins tray on the ground. No. It was so embarrassing.
That's humiliating.
And then he said something about truculence, and he walked out over the fixins.
The sad thing is this is all made up, but it could. People are thinking right now, did this happen?
Mashed potato footprints as he walks out the door.
He's an Irishman. Potatoes are big. Potatoes are important.
The way he's been acting with...
Ryan's still pulling chives out of his hair.
Brian, I thought we were going to have dinner.
I also love that the Calgary Flames have... Is it 2 of the last 3 winners of the Lady Bing?
Yeah.
When you talk about truculence, nothing says truculence like Lady Bing winner.
But he's kind of... we don't want to... He's kind of acting a little Trumpy, as we said. I don't like how he's dealing with the
Power
ring.
trippy?
He's power trippy. He is a bit of a bully, kind of throwing his weight around.
He's always been that, though.
Yeah, but he was our bully.
But to be fair...
He was the toughest kid at our school, not at their school.
I think he just has fun a lot of the time. I think he kind of acts like that, but it's... I don't know, almost like the Neil McRae, and he and Neil McRae had an interesting relationship where they put on a bit of an act.
You don't think Brian Burke has self-importance?
I don't, no. I think, and the tie, he likes to do his own thing and have some fun, and yeah, I don't think he's actually a step behind. But what I said earlier sounded a little off. I just mean I think he's staying a little sort of hands off because Treliving seems to be doing a good job, and they got a good team in Calgary, and if it wasn't for Connor McDavid, they might be the talk of the province still.
This is kind of shaping up to be like the old Battle of Alberta, where it's like the Flames were really, really good in the 80s. They had great teams, but the Oilers had Gretzky, and they were way better no matter what what the Flames did.
Flames still got 1 cup out of that.
Of course, but
they were white hot for a little while there.
That's patreon.com/pucksonnet. Actually, they won the cup as soon as Gretzky left.
You have to explain it. There was also a Flames White Hot song on this Patreon episode.
We're playing vinyl, old hockey songs. One of them was Flames. I think it was Red Hot.
Thanks.
Anyway, a little call.
How much more podcast do we have left?
Fair bit.
Oh.
The summer cannot come soon enough.
Hunger setting in.
This is one of the more interesting things that we're going to talk about the Chicago Blackhawks now because they did a lot last week, and it happened right after the show, and we didn't talk about it. Marian Hossa is going to not play all of next season because he has a skin allergy to hockey equipment.
He just developed it, 30-some-odd years into his career? Or new equipment? What's going on?
There's the skeptical nature of this because it's become a serious problem when he's made he had a front-loaded kind of deal with Chicago where he made all his money in the first few years, and now he's got 4 years where he's just making $1 million. Not
to mention he was in final after final after final, right?
Yes, he played about 196 games in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah.
I want to give him the benefit of a doubt.
I will too, yeah.
And this does happen to people. I think it sort of starts as infection, or it can develop sort of. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I mean, things like this can happen. Like, I was not allergic to cats as a kid. I have issues with cats now.
Me too.
They stopped me from breathing.
Right.
It didn't happen until I was in my 20s.
Yep.
And this is, so I mean, you can conspiracy theory this if you want. I'll give him the benefit of a doubt unless I have good evidence.
I believe it. I'm like, technology has evolved to the point where I'm like, I'd buy it.
But it has something to do with the medication he takes.
Okay.
And it might not, at his age, it might be more harmful than maybe winning a cup. But the problem with the Chicago Blackhawks is they're trying to get the band back together again because they traded for
They're trying real hard.
They want, like, Dustin Byfuglien is going to be back in Chicago in no time because they traded for Brandon Saad.
Yeah.
They want to get Patrick Sharp back.
Yeah.
On a 1 year, like I said, on a 1 year deal, like they did with Brian Campbell, was another guy that they want him to come back.
Yeah, Jeremy Roenick's sharpening his skates.
Tony Amonte, Chris Chelios.
Well, I think Chelios could still play. He's only
Belfour.
He needs the money, but Chris Chelios is
They just traded their backup goalie away. Hey,
I like this reunion tour.
We're bringing everybody back. It's gonna work. I swear to God.
Esposito.
But you talk about PMAC. We talked about how. The Coyotes were not catering to their franchise player. They said, thanks, no thanks, you're out of here. Mm-hmm. But with Kane and Taves, who are making like $30 million between them, they basically went to Stan Bowman and they said, we want Brandon Saad back.
Yeah.
And we miss him and we really like him. And do you kind of say, okay, forget about the whole inmates running the asylum thing, you have to cater to your best players?
Yeah.
Or is this a cause for concern?
It is definitely the opposite of what's going on in Arizona because, I mean, ideally, if you're going sort of numbers, you've got these kids coming up underneath who are making big money and they have to move some of them out because, like, has what's been happening repeatedly with the Hawks between cups, really, is they have to keep shedding the middle sort of guys because they can't afford to keep everybody under the pay cap. The difference, though, between sort of going that route in Arizona versus going that route in Chicago is results. If you've won Stanley Cups versus, the Coyotes had that one playoff run where they made the conference final.
They won. I think they won a game in that conference.
Yeah,
final.
maybe. It's a different story where you kind of had to make some decisions. I understand the Coyotes, but it was just one player there too, and it's a little different.
Yeah.
Here, do you move out some of these like big name guys, sell high, as they're going to soon hit the point of the career where there's diminishing returns on that investment? But they decided to honor those players and try to win another time or two maybe with them if they can.
They're capable of it.
But then there's risk.
Kane and Taves aren't even 30 yet.
No, I don't think they're washed up by any means. But as opposed to selling, not necessarily them, but maybe a couple of their defensemen.
Right.
And try to cycle in, keep Hjalmarsson as opposed to, I mean, the age, they're all getting older slowly but surely. But there's going to be a steep drop-off, I think, with the Chicago Blackhawks once Kane and Taves drop off, obviously, because they're not holding on to these middle guys, but they've been drafting really well, so maybe not. They've been doing really well with young players and fleecing guys like Jim Benning for Gustav Forsling and the likes.
I wonder if they retire together and then go into the Hall of Fame together.
I think so. They're the new Solani and Korea were the old, the first Sedin twins. These are the new Sedin twins.
But first, the Sedin twins have to get in.
One of them will. I'm just kind of realizing that we've talked about this whole downward cycle and cause for concern with another team in recent years, and that was the Pittsburgh Penguins. Mm-hmm. And then they figured it out with a new coach or adding a couple pieces, and they became a dynasty.
If you got game breakers, it's much easier to build not that it's easy, but to build the supporting cast or to mix that up. And I mean, you can even look at like Mike Gillis when they did do the run, did a good job of building up sort of the bottom six type of guys, and already had the top in place. Chicago could easily do that again. These guys haven't dropped off yet, but it's a matter of, do you sell off when you have to pick one or the other? Do you take the guy who's 29 or the guy who's 25? The 29-year-old might be better now, but give it a couple years, maybe it would have been better to keep, and they're going to be moving out some of these guys in that age range instead, or already have, I guess.
And I'm starting to think that like one of the things we marvel about Pittsburgh now is like the players that they cultivated and drafted and groomed to play for Gino and with Sid. Mm-hmm. And now reaping the benefits. But in Chicago, it was just, we'll take that guy and that guy and that guy from those teams at the deadline. They'll all work. This will work. And it doesn't work. So maybe if they've been drafting
a few times.
Well, it didn't work the last 2 years. And they just overly tinkered with their whole team. And they got Andrew Ladd back, another reunion tour guy. So I don't know.
Can't go home again.
I guess that was about it. It was Hjalmarsson got traded, and that was Hjalmarsson got dealt to Arizona, so he'll be there for the time being, and
until they bring him back.
Yeah, he'll be back there in 2 years. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens in Chicago.
They should have gotten Doan.
They could that wouldn't be a half bad.
But I think they got to go younger.
Oh,
they got to look Shane to college Jr. teams and stuff. You got to find yourself a Rust or
Yeah, P-Mac, you and
it's Cale Doan.
Cale Doan. It was all Cales and somebody else. Another name was drafted all along. We were talking about the 2007.
Quinoa.
Quinoa Doan. We were talking about bad drafts and how bad the Canucks were at drafting. They had the worst single draft year in NHL history, guys.
Oh.
In 2007, they drafted 5 guys that never played in the NHL.
Really?
And it is worse than the Edmonton Oilers 1980, and I really like that talking point. And we don't really have to talk about it, but we can just.
There's got to be a lot of teams though that have gone a whole draft with guys that didn't make the NHL at all.
Yeah, like the Rangers and the Islanders from like 99 or whatever. Like the Islanders had 3 picks in the top 10 one of those years, like 98.
And did they trade them all?
Yeah, the Islanders picked amazingly. They just moved them all out of town.
They never played for them.
I think that'll wrap it up. I have a couple of questions from Twitter.
Okay.
Harp Sama, he asks, who do you think will be the first free agent signing, and who do you want the Canucks to sign? You got anybody in mind, P-Mac?
Who's going to be the first just overall?
I think on like July 1st.
Who's available this year?
Kevin Shattenkirk is being courted by a lot of people, and then Washington traded a lot for him, so I could see that. I haven't seen the list. I mean, there's a lot of UFAs, like all the old guys and all the naked bearded men, and
not all of them. One of them.
The old one.
Oh, those guys.
Yeah, like and Peppermint Patty and Marlowe
are UFAs. I don't know
UFAs.
how much demand there is.
There's a demand. There's talk that Nail Yakupov might want to sign with the Canucks.
Well, that was an interesting comment, though. It was Rick Dhaliwal.
Because it's closer to Russia.
Yeah. Because Russians love coming to Vancouver.
If you got image optometry eyeglasses, you can see Russia from your backyard. I believe that it was Zlarionov, his agent.
Yeah.
Dhaliwal likes to call folks, and I like his Twitter account. He has all sorts of quotes, but it was like,
it's not verified.
Is it not? So it could be somebody else. But it's like, would he like to play for Vancouver? Sure, he'd love to play for Vancouver. Like, I get the feeling with Nail Yakupov,
I'll play anywhere.
Anybody calls him, if he wants to stay in the NHL, he's going to take whatever he can get, especially if it's in a town where there's sort of room to move up to the top line. Like, he could be playing with the Sedins next year.
Oh, yeah,
if he
the
signs
path is
on.
pretty clear.
Yeah.
You got to
So-
go through Brandon Sutter to get there.
Well, with Willie gone, I don't even know about that. But yeah, no, Naliak, Wheel's name has been coming up, who's had success in the minor leagues, but hasn't really stuck at the NHL. But he was getting like a point every other game last season. Like, it was 12 and 23 games or something.
There's
So,
a
I
lot.
mean, he's a small, undersized center. You could slide into 3, sort of be like a new Lyndon Vay, Kyle Wellwood type of project.
How about we get
hope for the
Lyndon
best?
Vay?
Maybe.
On the podcast?
No, never.
I was gonna say, yeah, they're overdue for one of those to work out, aren't they?
Yeah.
So Wheel might be worth, and he's a North fan kid, so everyone's been mentioning Carl Alsner as well, because the Canucks want to shore up the D a little bit after losing Spiza and Trampkin.
I'd like that.
I'd like a guy that's like 36 or 35, like an old defenseman that's just gonna make a reasonable salary, eat up a lot of minutes, and and not be saddled with this dumb Lucas Spiza deal.
Alsner is probably going to get a big deal. That's the thing that I think a lot of people are afraid of. So if he comes here, he's going to be like 5 for 5.
Right.
Jeez.
But he's coming home.
He's coming home, so 4 or 5 for 5. That's still big commitment for a team that's still not like. By the time he's
in
on the
his early
downward slide.
30, he's 30, maybe.
He's
31,
29. I don't even think he's 30 yet, is he? Alsner.
He's probably looking for He's looking for a longer term.
This is his home run deal, and
yeah, okay.
is it the guy the Canucks want right now? I have a fear he would become the new Louis Eriksson. That you're just getting saddled with the guy who would probably be successful on a better team.
Yeah.
But
fair enough.
Right now,
he's coming for a payday instead
it's
of
just
going to
be, and psychologically, it could just be. I think with Eriksson, like, it seems to be a downward cycle. It's sort of like Verbata, except you got him on a longer term. I worry that like he could get down on himself, and then nobody else is going to want him, and then it's just a bad situation for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Like, so Alsner, I don't know if I'd go for him personally.
Okay.
If it's a good rate, why not? He's local as well, yeah. So we'll see.
Heather Smart asks if we listen to any other hockey-centered podcast. She's looking for recommendations.
Ryan does.
I listen to the only other hockey podcast I listen to is the Bob McKenzie show, the Bobcast, and it's just his old man dad jokes, just speaking for 60 minutes about what's happening in the NHL. But it's very informative, and you learn a lot from it, and it's very captivating. So I would recommend that. That's the only one I listen to. I don't know about you, P-Mac.
I'm just looking over my list. I don't listen to a lot of sports podcasts. You know, Star Talk Radio. It's a favorite. Welcome to Night Vale. It's Serial. You know, I got some
You're
good
still
ones.
listening to Serial?
Well, I mean, when they release a season. I was like one of the 5 people who liked season 2. Sorry, I know that'll get me some hate mail. Pod Save America and Pod Save the World have been 2 favorites of mine lately. But yeah, none of those are hockey. I'm sorry.
Dale Wheaton, the last thing is instead of talking about this year's draft, let's open up the phone lines to people still complaining about not picking Tkachuk last year, to which I say, I don't think we'll ever do an open phones episode.
Nope.
Even if you're on Patreon, we'll never. It would have to be something. I don't know.
It's complicated.
It's actually with the new recording setup. I don't know how to get Skype working, so we got to fix that.
Well,
anyway.
I can't call in anymore. But yeah, I'm still like, until you see ULEVI in action in a couple of years, can't even start to, this coming season, you can't even start to analyze that, and you really can't judge it for another 5 or 6 years. So open up the phone lines to hear, I don't know, I get enough of that when I tune into local sports radio. It's just not.
Geeta, you're looking pretty hungry.
I'm starving.
Do you want to go prepare yourself some food while we wrap up the podcast?
Okay.
Are you kicking her off the show?
No, we can wrap it up.
We
okay, we're going to do 5 minutes. We got to tell her story.
5 minutes. I don't have anything to contribute to 5 minutes.
She's just going to laugh or maybe ask a couple questions. So I'll wrap it up this week's podcast.
I'd like to know that I helped make that connection for you.
Yes, you did.
Because I had talked to you on Monday, and then he was asking the questions.
Save it for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
people. This is an interesting story.
Great.
Sorry, people. There's your incentive to donate to Patreon.
Yeah, it's a great story that involves me and PMAC and
unlikely connections that we didn't know of.
Bye.
You can come back.
Geeta's leaving.
So if you want to rate and review the podcast on iTunes, that'd be great. We had a couple last week. One with the title, subject line, Abbotsford Strong. So I quite like that. Really repping the hometown. And support the show. You can, if you want to pledge money on Patreon, patreon.com/pucksonnet. Like us on Facebook. Anywhere else, P-Mac?
Follow on Twitter.
Pucksonnet.
Send us your tweets. It's always fun.
What's the Twitter?
At PucksonNetCA, right?
Or
At PucksonNet.
I was setting you up there.
I don't call Ryan.
What was that, Geeta? We should get the crow.
Canuck the crow and his knife.
All right, so we're going to go up to 5 minutes for paying now, and this is a really good story.
Bye.
Fuck, move,